Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Saturday. Now, there's a little bit of a delay usually when we do these lives, so let me wait a couple of seconds. Every time I look at my lives after the fact, I'm starting to talk in the middle of a sentence. So hopefully this already kicked in. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Of course, we're here to talk about watches. I hope the sound is not too bad. I'm kind of close to a road over here, but this is kind of off to the side at the park. So I thought it'd be nice to shoot over here for a change. You can see everything in the background and everything else. But observe and report is my job, man. And I want to talk about the Philly show. So first things first, wristwatch check. I got the GAB 2100, the Bluetooth version, of course. Makes things easier when you want to set the time, but the regular version is fine. I put this watch on today because it actually was dead, which I don't understand because I keep this watch in the watch box on the top, right? They have rows, and I keep this on the top where sunlight is supposed to get to it, but it was dead and I was going to be a little active today, so I figured let me throw on the GAB 2100. Of course, we have this modified because I can't help myself. And we put that kind of, AP casing on there. I went with the blacked out type of look. I had a butterfly clasp on this, but if you're gonna wear a watch for active play, if you will, that butterfly clasp is gonna dig into the bottom of your wrist, and that's what I was experiencing. And not only that, when I was playing ball in it or I was doing stuff that was active, the flight clip was actually coming undone. I think that was the actual biggest reason why I switched it out. So heads up to you guys, if you guys are going to get a watch like this, you want to put a butterfly clip and it's an active watch, you might want to think twice. Cool Watches Only, what's up, bro? Cool Watches Only, man. I'm glad you're in here. I love your YouTube channel, dude. It's so refreshing. It's so different. Um, I think you're just starting off in your channel like me, and you put a lot of work, man. Creator to creator, I understand what goes into the editing of videos, making them interesting, making them different, and your reviews and everything else. Your videos are actually really, really cool. But yeah, guys. So primarily, what I want to talk to you guys today about is my experience at the Philly Watch Fair, um, of the Urban Report. Right, I got to go and do my thing and have my experience. I did a little short video for that. You guys, pretty sure most of you have seen it already, the ones that follow. And I didn't do so I didn't do like interview styles, and I didn't I didn't even take footage of the watches too well. It was a learning curve, man. I mean, I've been coined the learning professional on here on YouTube, so I go by that still, and I probably always will. But it was a good experience in the sense that it gave me a feel for actually shooting the watches, what's the angles, how to go about it. And it was a smaller show. There was only about, I don't know, 7 vendors there. It was very intimate. It was the first year that they were doing it. I had a phenomenal conversation with the organizer, Chris. He was actually not the first table when you walked in, but it was the first table that I walked to in the video. That was his company. And he actually is a regular watch dealer that carries a bunch of different independent brands within it. So I thought that was cool. I like to see that, like a lot more brick and mortar companies. I think is what's going to happen moving forward. Is a lot. I think a lot of more ADs, right? The ones that have different watches, affordable watches, whatever the case may be, they're going to be putting more of the independent brands in their shops. So I love to see that. And I love to see the fact that he was putting on that show all together. And, we had a good conversation. He was telling me he reached out, and telling me the process for it. And I kind of understood. And I suspect that that was the first year. I suspect that next year, right? So if Chris is out there sending invitations and he's setting up shop for next year, this time, he's going to have a lot more vendors there. It's going to be a lot nice. It had a lot more capability of having a lot more room. And he showed me like the areas that can open up. So it's going to be kind of like the New York wind-up fair. If you guys went to that last year or saw videos on it last year, it's not that it was small, because it wasn't. It was pretty big, but it was packed. I think I went the second day. I think I went on the Saturday, and that show was like crowd elbow to elbow. So this year for the New York Fair, they're going to actually do it in a bigger space. There's going to be other names there. I was actually taking a peek at it yesterday, and I saw Erebus is on there, Spinnaker, a couple of names that I can't recall. Obviously, Erebus wasn't there last year because he wasn't out yet. But I think that they also grew in vendors too. And it's going to be really cool to see a lot more micro brands in that space, and it should be a good time. So maybe different. Alex, what's going on? Good morning. Good morning. Um, so anyway, going back to the Philly show, I had a very good experience, to be honest with you. It was only my second show that I've been to, and it was a last minute thing. I actually went with my brother-in-law. We had a phenomenal time, and I told him, like, listen, I want to go to this show more so as an enthusiast, because it's hard to go to these shows and do both. If you're recording and you're worried about doing interviews or getting close shots on watches, you lose that kind of experience very head on with the watches at the shows. So you kind of have to pick and choose, in my opinion, which one are you going to be when you go there. Of course, you could dedicate time to recording and then just do another walk around and then just be an enthusiast. But I'm going all 3 days to New York, and I have a specific day that I'm dedicating towards just recording. Wifey said she's gonna help me, so that's really, really cool. And yeah, I'm gonna be bringing my brother-in-law too. I'm gonna be bringing my birth mother. I'm gonna be dragging some people to the show to try to make them into watch enthusiasts. So what's really cool, and I saw the name Vario at the Philly show. I'm jumping back and forth, but at the Philly show, I saw Vario's name on there and I kind of just glanced at it. But what Vario did is they offered a raffle to one of their watches. I was hoping that Ivan would be there because it would have been really cool to actually meet him after doing collaborations with him on straps and one of his watches. And so I was hopeful that he was going to be there, but he actually was just doing the raffle. And I believe Chris, and I believe Chris's company's name is Virage. And under Virage, he has multiple micro brand companies. So if you guys check out Philly Watch Fair, he has his website listed on there. He has some phenomenal watches. You guys should definitely check that out if you have some time. And like I said, he represents some micro brands in that space. And it was cool chopping it up with him and everybody else. Mark Time was there. Definitely was excited to see him for sure, meet him in person. We had a good conversation. I got to see somebody go up to his booth and, make a purchase. And of course, I was wearing his M1.2 to the show. Um, who else? Maryland was also there. Um, Eugene, which is the watchmaker for that company, he has his own company. I believe it's called E Strathlum. I'm probably butchered. Strathlum, something like that. Look it up on the Philly show. But what I gotta say, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful to anybody else who was at the Philly show, but his watches hit home for me because what he did is, I don't know if you guys ever got into like the vintage space and you saw those special casings, those watch casings that kind of have like the curling at the ends of it. Phenomenal watches. I think who used to do that back in the day? Ah man, the company's eluding me now, but it has a very, very, very vintage look. And what stopped me was the sizing for the watches, right? I like smaller watches, but I didn't like watches to be too small. And all of them are kind of smaller. But what he did is he took a total approach of vintage inspiration and he just made that casing larger. And the dials, man, oh man, you guys got to check out my man Eugene. His watches, Strathlum. Hold on, let me look it up real quick. Strat Eugene Stolman. That's how you pronounce it. Stolman. Check out his watches. Really, if you like vintage and you like especially the vintage side where they're taking modern parts and kind of, you don't have to worry about the watch not being serviced, how long it's been around, is it too big, is it too small? Now, I believe his watches were, man, I didn't take a look at the sizes. I have to guess that it's anywhere between 38 to 40 in diameter, but absolutely beautiful watches. And what he does with the dials, and he gave me some insight as far as what dials are high fail rates. Like the aventurine glass is apparently not easy to do, very easily cracked. It's glass. Um, so he said he's looking at that and trying to approach it, but he wanted to do it where a way he knew it was going to be safe for the consumer to have, even after the fact of having the watch. Sometimes there's just compromising things when there's pressures on the sides of the aventurine glass. But man, his watches were magnifique, magnifique. Who else? TSAO was over there, Baltimore. Those guys have phenomenal watches, especially that purple. I believe it's a purple diver. Ooh, man. And they have a lot of pilot inspiration. Now, what I like about TSAO is that his gentleman's name was Alan, cool cat. Um, they had a lot of inspiration for pilot, and a lot of the things that they did over there was based off of history that was going on over there. So there's a lot of things that were interconnected with those watches. Those were absolutely phenomenal. And I'm just trying to remember here who's. I have a terrible memory. I'm actually looking. Dufresne. Dufresne was a cool cat, man. What was the gentleman's name? I'm terrible when it comes to name. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I want to say it's Steve or Steven. Yeah. Really small company. Um, he's okay with just making X amount of watches and not having too many SKUs. He actually has a good amount of watches on there. You guys will see him in the video I made at the very end. He got his wife involved to do an artistic dial. So one every single time he makes or she makes that dial for him. And I really liked like his evolution and the thing that he involved. He has a Swiss made movement in one of his watches. Very personable guy, very personal company, right? He said that he doesn't want to grow to the point where he can't be hands-on with his watches. He likes to be involved in touching every single watch service call. He likes to be in the realm of being able to service the watch. And I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot just at my second show going to Philly. So, I realized that Eugene's a watchmaker over there from Maryland, and he does a lot of the service calls and service repairs for a lot of micro brands, even building watches too. Maryland is actually also coming out with a new watch as well. They had a lineup of 4 to 5 watches that were just prototypes, so I'm excited to see how that evolves. And yeah, man, just I had a phenomenal experience over there, and I was able to really spend almost half an hour with each person. And I'm expecting that that Philly show is going to grow tremendously. So keep your eyes peeled for next year on that show. Now, if you haven't heard, you guys all know Random Rob and Travis. They're actually at Lafayette Trifecta. They're actually going to be doing a show over there on, I believe they said it was the 21st. Go over to Random Rob's channel. He made a quick video about it, explaining the dates and everything else. Some creators are going there as well. If you're in the area, I invite you guys to go down there. It should be a great time. Trifecta has been extremely generous in letting us see and promote a bunch of watches and have Travis go over there and talk watches and everything else. So Random Rob's going to be there. There was somebody else. There was another creator that Random Rob mentioned. But in any case, man, yeah, they're having a show over there. That's before the Wind Up Fair in New York. So if you guys are over by Lafayette, check out his video. He's going to give you the exact address for, where they're going to be and everything else. So that should be a good time. I'm going to be watching from afar. I'll watch. Hopefully they take some footage for me to see and everything else. And then, of course, we have Wind Up. That's going to happen. Super excited. All the names are going to be there. And I got to figure out how I'm going to go about the recording. But so going back to, I'm all over the place, going back to the Philly show. So there was a raffle from Vario, like I mentioned. I put my name in there, of course, who's not. Here's the deal. My brother-in-law came with me, and he's kind of like, he likes like the small Cartier looks, even the Tank or the Santos, that's his style. So when he saw the Reverso from Vario, he picked that watch up, man, and I could see it. So he's not a collector, scratch that. He's not a watch nerd like how I am. Let's put it quick, because you guys know how it is. There's people who are like, oh yeah, I have a watch collection. And then there's nerds that are like, I want to know the specs, I want to know the movement, I want to know the people, I want to know this, I want to know that. I'm going to try to convert him to be a nerd as well. Mission complete on the first level of what I'm trying to employ, and that was taking him to Philly. But he was down for that, man. He was really excited. We had a great time. But he fell in love with that Vario Reverso. So I said, check this out, cool. I was like, if I win this watch, I'm going to give it to you. Here's the reason. A, it's not my style per se. I'm a pretty big dude. Like I'm 6'4", 220 pounds. Like smaller watch. Not that I have a problem with smaller watches. I actually like a 38 now. Um, I'll even go down to a 36 on occasion, but it has to be round, right? I'm just too wide shouldered and too big to have. I even put it on my wrist. It looks like I'm wearing my little brothers or well, my brother's technically a grown ass man now, but like a little kid's watch on my wrist, right? But it's really cool. I'm checking. Oh, look, matter of fact, I have it on me. What am I doing? So I actually won the watch, man. I got sent an email. They said, "Hey, congratulations, you won the watch," and kept my word. I text my brother-in-law. I'm like, "Bro, the watch is yours. I told you it would be. Um, here you go." Kind of like a memento to come into the show with me for the first time. That was like the only watch. He liked a lot of watches. He actually stuck to the vintage side of things, and they had a table there, I believe. Hold on, let me look up the name. They had a vintage table where it was only vintage watches, Rolex, the names, all the names, Rolex, Omega. I want to shout out the companies while I'm doing this. Steel City Vintage. If you like vintage watches, the cat was real cool. I forget his name eludes me at this point, but Steel City Vintage, all vintage watches, heavily an enthusiast, heavily inspired, heavily motivated. The guy's actually got a full-time day job, but he said, "Hey, I got into vintage inspired watches and it took off, and this is what I'm leaning into." So he was actually at the show and he had some really Vacheron Constantine, Rolex, Omega, just all the old school names, as you guys know, and very nice vintage watches. And so my brother-in-law liked also some vintage watches and everything else, but the Vario Reverso, and I'm sorry if there's too much sun here, we might have to move real quick. Yeah, hang on one second. Let's move over real quick because I think that's too much sun for you guys. This will probably be better, I think. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's bring it closer. So my name came up. I actually won the raffle, and here it is, the Vario Reverso. It'd probably be better if I reverso the camera and show you guys. It looks like I'm in somebody's backyard. I promise you guys, I'm at the park. It's just a huge park. So here it is, the Vario Reverso. Now you can see the size of the watch and you can see the size of my wrist. It's arguable, but for me, it's just a little small. And because he was with me, I feel a little bad giving this to somebody who didn't go to the show, but he was actually there, so I don't feel bad at all. So it has ball bearings here, right? Spring-loaded ball bearings, which my thing was like, "Oh, is this magnet?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, magnet, really?" So it has ball bearings there, very easy to flip, 2 crowns, quartz, very nice. And then you can see which side is right side up because it has that little cake top effect here. And in the back, I mean, there's no case back, right? Obviously, but if I had to like choose, if I was like my arm was being twisted, I would say that this face is technically the case back, even though when you flip it over, it's not, because you have the screws here. So this is actually interesting also to change the battery out, because what you need to do is you have to remove it from this swinging pin here, right? And then you have to separate the case, the main case that's inside that flips around, and it comes out in 2 parts. And I believe there's 2 batteries. I got to check the video, but it'll be part of my review and everything else. So very nice watch. It comes with a butterfly clasp. It comes with the regular clasp. I think that he likes the regular buckle, so I'll probably switch that out by the time I give it to him. But I'm hanging on to it for a while. I'm obviously going to do a review of it before I hand it over to him. But it's a very nice watch. Vario makes very nice watches, as is. So super excited to have won this watch at the fair as a memento and as a spectacular gift to my brother-in-law. So that's that. Um, I'm writing the script right now for it. I'm not going to have it for too long. I know he's really excited. He was like, "Bro," he was like, "Come meet me right now. Come meet me right now and send me the watch." I'm like, "Bro, hang on, slow down. I got to do my thing. I got to do my review. I got to check this thing out first. So, but I got to keep this in the watch roll to preserve it." So that was really cool, man, to also win that raffle for going. It's obviously, I wasn't there. Now, I didn't pick up anything. I didn't pick up anything at the show. Um, I'm cooling with the watches, man. I'm cooling with adding to the collection. Be honest with you. Of course, there are things that I'm intrigued, and there are things that I'm rather like tempted to pull the trigger on, but it ain't the right time, man. It's as I'm maturing, as the collection is growing, and mind you, I'm saying this, but I have close to 50 watches now, maybe 46, 47 watches. So, once you get to a certain point, once you start firing off all of these shiny things, you're like, oh, I need a dive watch. Oh, I need a pilot watch. Oh, I need a military. You know what I mean? Like you go through those phases. And then I realized, all right, let me slow down and maybe get bigger pieces, right? Things that I can save up for and really feel like I need to add that to my collection before I pull the trigger. So, of course, there's a couple of things in sight. Jack Mason is the one that just jumps off the top of my brain. Chris Ward, of course. I want an Islander. I want to support these guys, but also I'm waiting for something that really draws me in, that really sucks me to the watch, where it's like, okay, this watch was made for me type of thing. And just taking my time and also doing my homework, right? Like when I go to the New York show, I'm going to be able to learn a lot. The first time I went, I was last year, and I just learned about independent brands. I didn't have much information to go by. They have, of course, had spectacular watches all around for most companies, but there's a lot to learn, man. First of all, there's a lot of them out there, as you guys know. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of things that you want to explore before pulling the trigger, at least in my case and in my opinion. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to give it some time. I'm going to enjoy myself. I do want to take content. So what I learned on the content end of it is, number one, there was one company that was at the show that I unfortunately missed out on, right? And which is crazy because they were all right there. There weren't a whole lot of them, but I saw them and I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back to this table. I said that twice and I just forgot. So it is what it is. That was the Cincinnati Watch Company. And I'm mad at myself for missing out, man, because they had some cool watches. I watched some other videos. There was another creator that did a actual like more interview style when he went to the Philly show with each person. So I got caught up that way. But I realized that I gotta slow down, man. I gotta kind of like when you're going over there. That's why I'm saying, like, when you're going there as a content creator, it's hard to do both because there's so much going on. Of course, you're excited. There's crowds, if there is, if there isn't, but there's still people walking by. Even when I was at the Philly show, it was very intimate, but there were people trying to get to the table while I'm having these long-winded conversations, and respectfully, I'm moving over and everything else. So there are distractions, if you will. Oscar, what's going on? Oscar's in the building, and you want to be respectful for the people that are there and everything else. So my approach going to the wind-up fair is probably going to be more so lackadaisy, in the sense of, like, I'm not looking to, like, oh, put the mic in front of somebody and say, hey, talk about your watch company at every single booth, right? Like, I kind of just want to record myself. It sounds so like, what do you call that? Selfish, not selfish, but like, I don't know. But I want to record myself at the show. I want to record myself as an enthusiast, and you guys are just going to see the conversations, the dialogue. Wifey's pretty good at being keen to what to record and stuff like that. I'll give her like a couple of pointers, but she's very good with that. And it's just going to be natural interactions, when I'm at the show. And of course, we're going to get shots of the watches, and maybe another day I'll do like more B-roll. I don't know. I'm still mowing it over. You still kind of gotta go with the flow, because you can walk in there with a plan, but if you don't have experience, then you're kind of just figuring it out at the same time, which is what I've been doing ever since I started the channel. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. Time Ticker, good morning. Love the content. Love the content. Good luck on the Namoki video that you're working on. So yeah, my approach is just going to be that I'm going to walk in there as an enthusiast, but as a content creator at the same time. Just, you guys are going to see my interactions with them naturally. Of course, the ones that I know, I'll grab the watches, I'll speak about them, and give you guys whatever I can on that. Now, what I can say, and I don't know if you guys are all on Watch Crunch, but Max last year did a get together after the show nearby. He's doing that again this year. So if you need the information, matter of fact, in the description when we're done here, I'll put the information to that meetup. So if you guys are happening to go to the show, and I believe that one falls on the Saturday of, so close by, I think it's like a bar slash restaurant type of vibe. It's really chill, man. It's a good time. I went to it last year, and it's cool to like see people that you know the tag names of, right? But you obviously not a lot of people put their face. So some, we put name tags on, and we just like, oh, I know you, I know, yeah. So it was really cool last year. Wifey came with me. We chopped it up. We stayed there. We had some drinks. Jack Mason was actually part of that Watch Crunch event after the fact. They gave away a watch. Max gave away straps. He's got I shouldn't be stuttering with this. He has his Zero Pass strap. That I don't know. Maybe he'll give some away. Maybe I'm putting unnecessary pressure on him. My bad, Max. But it's a vibe, and we get to really connect and catch up to the people that we already communicate with the community. As you guys know, if you're already on Watch Crunch, you know that it's probably the most positive and it actually feels like a community rather than you post something and people just destroy you because they just bored and that's what they want to do. And here comes the sun again to mess up my lighting, if you will. But natural lighting is cool. So yeah, on the Saturday of the Watch and Wind Up Fair, he's doing that meetup. I'm sure there's going to be other creators there. I bumped into Watch Chris one year. He was just strolling around, got to chop it up with him. You guys know Mark from Long Island, Erebus. They're technically content creators, but they have their watch companies too. So I'm truly excited to really see. So let me know this, guys. You guys that are watching right now, who are you excited to see? Whether you're going or not, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people doing coverage on that. Who are you most excited to see at the show? And I'll ask myself that question, but that's honestly really difficult because I'm just excited to see them all. All the ones I saw from last year, I had nothing but a good experience. So, Patel, what's going on, brother man? What up, Skylar? Why you not going to Watch Time, New York, Gotham Hall, same weekend? Ah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. So the reason why I heard about it, I haven't even, honestly, Patel, I don't even know what that is entirely. I've definitely heard of Watch Time New York. Um, I probably watched some videos of it. If I'm not mistaken, they've done it every year, like the Watch and Wind Up Fair. Um, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that show more so for luxury watches? And I know it's around the same time, but my plan is to soak in the Watch and Wind Up Fairs. So I'm going all 3 days, and that's already going to be a lot. So for me to try and sneak in something additional at that time, even if it was like a couple days after or before, it just would be a lot. Like, I'll give you an example. He said, yep, yeah. So it's more luxury. I can't connect to luxury. I love luxury. I really love seeing the Rolexes and everything else. Like I told you guys with the vintage watch at the Philly Watch Fair. But I don't know, man. It's not something that I inspire for right now. And there's just so much information that I have to soak in from micro brands. And because they're in my reach, they're more so in my wheelhouse. I've already done collaborations with some. So it's kind of like, listen, I'm not as smart as I portray here. If you think I'm a big head with watches and stuff like that, I'm really not. So I can only take in but so much information, and micro brands offer a tremendous amount, being that there's so many of them. So to be quite honest with you, A, it's time, and B, it's just mental. Like it'll be burnout for me, and I have to kind of pick and choose what my focus is going to be. So for me, it's worth it to go all 3 days to really experience these guys while they're in show. It's my Super Bowl, you know. I'm not a big sports guy. I don't watch a lot of sports. I'll play sports, but I don't follow teams. I don't play video games. Like this is it for me. So the Wind Up Fair is really like my Super Bowl, and I'm planning to soak it in those 3 days. So it would just be too much, basically, at the end of the day. Yeah, true. you wanted to do one day as an enthusiast. I remember. It makes sense. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So I'm going to be chaperoning at that show. I'm going to be bringing my birth mother. I'm going to be bringing my brother-in-law. My wife's coming with me one day. My brother might come with me another day. So it's a lot, and I want to be able to like. I don't want to be there nerding out and the person's right next to me because I know that they're not into watches like I am. And it happened a little bit at the Philly show where I just completely locked in a little bit, and I'm just a complete nerd. Whoever I'm with, I want to be respectful and try to like show them and give them attention and also break things down as long as they can. Now, I don't expect them to stay the full time, so they may tap out and then I could kind of roam and do my thing. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot. And I was gonna say, like, I'll give you an example, like Jack Mason. I really wanted to go to Jack Mason's collaboration with Watch Chris in the city. I think they went. I think they went and did their thing this Tuesday at like 6:30, middle of the week for me, right? I have a daytime job. I don't do YouTube as full time. I do this as a hobby, really. So for me to have gone to the city on a work day, I'm an early bird, as you guys know. When I do these lives, it's usually earlier than this. This is actually a late live for me. I get up 4 in the morning. You know, even on the weekend, my body's just used to that. So, you know, for me to do work and then go to the city, which really sucks because I would have loved to see and focused on Jack Mason, chop it up with Watch Chris, and mix and mingle with the enthusiast and everything else. But it was just a lot, and that's just another example of it too. So who are you guys looking for, man? Whether or not you're going to the show, the New York Watch and Wine Fair, or you're just looking at the videos that are going to be produced from it, who are you guys really fired up for? Like, I'll give you guys some names that I like. I don't know who's going to be top in my mind for who I want to see at the show because I kind of want to see them all equally, to be honest with you, including I hope that I discover a lot of micro brands that I'm not even aware of. But of course, Jack Mason, like I said before, Studio Underdog, Chris Ward is always like, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen footage or been at the show, man, mobbed. They should just put one of those tickets now calling number B112, you know, at the DMV. They should just do one of those things because their table is usually mobbed. And with New York's population, I expect nothing less, regardless if I'm there right when they open the doors or not. People make a beeline over to it. So that's cool. But, you know, I definitely got to see that Bel Canto. Gotta see that Bel Canto, baby. That Bel Canto is, it means a lot. It hits home, man, because I've talked about this before, but the complication inside that watch is tremendous. And all things relative, to get it at the price that they're putting it, you and I both know, if anybody else, and you don't even have to necessarily go with the top tier companies, but if anybody else put that kind of complication, that kind of package together, the materials, the grade 5 titanium with the bracelet, it's going to be a lot of money. We're talking 10, 20, 30K. The sky's the limit depending on what name it's underneath. So for them to do it at a reach where almost everybody could potentially save, not everybody, but you could potentially put your mind to it and try to obtain that is really, really cool. So it's not just the fact of the complication, it's the fact that the affordability, and it's in line with kind of like my message and how, you know, I always say like watches are for everybody. No matter what you like to collect, you know, I don't care if you like fashion brands and you know, and I'm not saying those names just to like put them down, but whatever kind of watch you collect is accepted here. So it falls in line with it being obtainable even for the more common person to try to collect. So that's kind of like where it hit home. And they're doing tremendous things with the new releases that they have. I'm sure they had those things in the barracks ready to go. You guys saw the stuff that they did with some of their new releases with watches that have crazy amount of lume on them. So there's a lot to see with them, even with the collections that they've had in the past with the 12 and everything else. So very, very excited. And I'm excited to meet Mark, right? Mike over there, the representative, because he's been very, very good with, you know, sticking with the community, communicating with us, going back and forth on Watch Crunch too. So yeah, man, there's definitely Studio Underdog, seeing him transition. He could have fall in line with just his regular watermelon watch, but you know, he came out with that that dual dial, or like the screws that it look like in the dial. The colorway on it's phenomenal. I'm really curious as to what he's going to do next as well. I'm expecting, as a designer end, I think that he's going to he's going to shock us in the arena of where it's the hardest. And I think the hardest thing at this point when it comes to watches is offering something that we haven't seen in design language, that we can't holster and say, oh, well, that's a homage, or well, that's, you know, inspiration from this and that. Like, just having your own identity. I feel that there's a lot of goals with independent brands, but the biggest goal in my eyes as an enthusiast, aside from customer service and quality and all that value, is probably having a company where your design language is recognized as an individual, no matter whether it's a new watch or it's a watch that's been around. It's like Ming. I feel like Ming watches give that effect, right? And they're a little bit more expensive, but Ming watches, it's like when you see a Ming watch, or when you see a Zelos, or when you and Zelos kind of looks a little bit like Seiko. There is a little bit, but it's enough where it's like, oh, that's a Zelos, or that's a Ming, or that's a this, or that's a that. And when you have that effect, you've now graduated to solidifying the brand as its own identity. And I think from there, the sky's the limit. You could come at us with innovation. You could come at us with giving us the key features that you want in a watch. So TT, have a good day. Thank you for dropping in. And that's really where it hits home for the independent brand really being successful in its own kind of identity. So it's hard to do, right? There's been so many combinations of watches out there in the past that, you know, I feel like every company kind of leans on something that they really excel in. But the best of the best, and of course it's cash flow, of course it's, you need time to be in the industry, you need time to really be in there to do this. But, you know, having all those key factors pulled together is not easy to do. And that's pretty much, who else am I looking at for the watch and the wind up fair? Mark, for sure. I might actually go ahead and let me move this mic. I might actually go ahead and add one of his watches into my collection. What I'm looking at from Mark, honestly, I don't know if you guys are looking at this too, but what's that? The Seiko Prologue, the one that kind of looks like the original. And I've come across I think that's how you pronounce it, the one with the gold dial. You know which one I'm talking about, the chronograph. I think he has both. I want it to be mechanical, but at day's end, I've gone to like these little fairs, like what do you call those kind of fairs where they're selling things for cheap, whatever the case. I've gone to little fairs and they've had watches, like old vintage stuff, and even at that, the watch used Seiko was like $700, $800, and I was like, for a used watch and stuff like that. That may be your thing. That may be what's attractive to you, and that may be even in line with what the price is. And I know Seiko might even have a version of that, and they probably do, in their catalog. But I saw that on Islander rendition, so I'm interested. I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at his what's the other collection that he has? I forget the name. When you're put on the spot, I forget the name. It's like it's like the different parts of Long Island, but those are also in itself its own design. Because when he started the brand, right, he was filling holes for what the SKX, what Seiko was doing with the SKX. They were kind of like giving us diminishing returns with the Seiko 5. You were losing this, but you were gaining that, you know. So he filled the hole. So I feel like his watches are where potentially people wanted to be with Seiko in their new releases. I mean, I feel real bad, man, because I absolutely Pogue. Thank you, Keith. Yes, the Pogue. I feel like Seiko, and I hate it, man, because I absolutely have so much respect for Seiko. I love Seiko watches. I have so much respect for them as a company. There's a lot of watches in my collection that are Seiko. If it wasn't for them, I couldn't do the modding that I do. I couldn't do the custom watches. There's a lot that goes into it, right? But at the same time, I feel like with quality control, I feel like with marketing, price points. I feel like they're kind of stepping in the wrong direction, in my opinion. They slap pro specs on it, and like the Alpinist was something that I absolutely loved. And when I got into watch collecting, I think at that time it was already discontinued, and so they relaunched it in their pro specs model, but it was a price hike after that, and that happens with a lot of the watches. And if it's not a price hike, then it's like I said, it's diminishing returns on the features potentially. So it's like, oh man, what's an enthusiast to do? At the end of the day, there's stuff like the Arnie, right? Like there's the re-release of the Arnie, which I think that the price is pretty fair on that. Everything that you're getting, I probably would have got it no matter what, because Arnold's movies in the day with the Predator and all that stuff was like, that's my favorite movie of all time. So I would have got that anyway, but I got that at a good price. And I can't necessarily say that the same way for the prospects when they do stuff like that with the SARB 017. Now Nomoki just came out with, we were speaking about Nomoki just in the beginning when TT came in, because she was asking the community what watch should she do next, right? She's asking, hey, what mod do you want to see, or what mod kit do you want to see from them? So they just released the Alpine. They're calling it the Alpine. It's a 1-for-1 for the Alpinist. And I was super fired up, super excited. I'm okay with homage watches. And that's such a tricky subject. Like, I get when somebody says like, that's not cool, man, because that's basically the Alpinist minus the logo, right? Cool. But why is it that the Alpinist was re-released in the Prospex line, and that's like 7 and change, 7 and a quarter, I think, before tax? Is the watch worth that much? That comes down to you. For me, I don't think so. I think that it should be way, way less. And listen, I don't need it to go into the Prospex line. It could have stayed where it was. It could have got a revamp, maybe a movement upgrade, maybe case material. Maybe they did it in a bronze, because bronze in a green sunburst dialway. Sheesh. Like, there's so many people that are going with those kind of combinations, the green. So a bronze Alpinist SARB 017, right? Stay with me. With a sunburst green, gold, cathedral hands. Yeah, I would have went for that. I would have, and now that I think about it, I know I would have, because the first watch that I put together was that. It was imitating the Alpinist because I missed out on it, and that's how I filled that hole, and I forgot about it. It's actually the icon on my channel, right? That was the first watch that I built. That's why I decided to use that as the icon. And it went through different iterations, but where it was now, it was close enough to give me that kind of feel. But then when I saw Nomoki did it, and I was already doing collaborations with them, I was like, hey, listen, I'll build this watch. I'm happy to create content with it. I'm excited to get my hands on it, because I want to see. And look, I was not suspecting anything less from Nomoki, because they make, after touching their first pieces and their first, quality of material and stuff like that, they definitely make quality mods and quality parts, hands down. And I've gone the route with AliExpress, which is, it's actually super common for independent brands to do that. I've had conversations, you guys could see it in my interview. I think Mark says it in my interview, but before Mark Time came out with his official watch, like he messed around with a whole bunch of parts from AliExpress, super affordable. The parts are good. I'm not saying that they're not good from AliExpress. You can save money. You will have a successful mod. There are certain things that I like to do to the cases when I buy parts from AliExpress that I don't have to do to Nomoki. For example, when you get the crown, the part that receives the crown that you screw in is often gritty. That's the biggest thing that I see from parts on AliExpress. Maybe it's just unfinished, and I end up putting like a little bit of high velocity, high viscosity, whatever it's called, grease on it to kind of offset that, and then it's good to go. But with Nomoki watches and Nomoki parts, everything comes together famously, and you don't get that. Everything is smooth. So I've really enjoyed putting together their parts. I really enjoyed putting together the Alpinist, or they're calling it Alpine. And I'm actually going to do a review on that as well, even though technically I put it together. So, but it's more so on review on what my experience was putting it together, what my experience is with the quality of parts, and everything else. So that's to come for sure. And that's it, man. I got a couple of collabs going down, and I told you guys who I'm excited to see at the shows. Skylar picked up a Rolex Explorer 40, simple entry level Rolex, but very versatile. Files under the radar. And be afraid to wear it in flesh. I would still be, bro. I don't want to say this to you because I don't want to make you afraid to wear the. I mean, you're a smart guy, I'm sure. So you probably know where and when. You're right. If you were wearing, the regular sub, that's obviously going to be, or even a Datejust, right? I feel like a Datejust is also like, oh, that's a Rolex, right? Maybe not, because there's so many people who homage it. There's so many people who draw inspiration from the casing. But I would say even the Explorer, once you see that R2, you're like, you don't need, you know what I mean? So still be careful. That's a phenomenal watch. You're absolutely right. The Rolex Explorer is super versatile, sports watch. A lot of people go hiking and I mean, a Rolex watch in general, phenomenally built. You guys have probably seen a lot of videos with watchmakers putting together the movement. So now the difference between, and we're just talking about the actual movement inside the watch of a Rolex, the parts are put together like flawlessly. Like everything is made, fits like a glove. Whenever you're putting in the gear train, whenever you're putting in like the balance wheel, the barrel, the pallet fork, all the parts, man, keyless works. And take a look at some videos on watchmakers doing actual servicing. I don't know why I did this. They're actually servicing it. And I forget the guy who does it like in a way where he does commentary over it. You guys probably know who I'm talking about. But when you see them do a service on that watch versus another watch in a different movement, the parts almost fall into place. And I don't know if any of you have attempted taking a movement apart and putting it together. Don't even service it. You could buy a cheap movement, take the parts apart, right? Take pictures, video yourself doing that so you don't forget what part goes where. There's certain screws, like when you're doing the click, the part that prevents the watch from unwinding real quick. It kind of keeps it in place. When you're winding it, it's actually a part that you hear when you're winding a watch, right? There's certain screws that go on there, so you have to make sure that if you're going to attempt it, you video yourself and or pick a movement that has some more experienced people doing it. But if you ever watch those videos, if you ever attempt it yourself, the hardest part about reassembling the watch is the gears and stuff, especially when you're putting the main when you're putting the bridge for the train of wheels. You have to make sure that that goes on straight. You have to make sure that those pivots are sitting straight on the gems. Otherwise, you could potentially break them. So when you see that put together on a Rolex, they just boop, 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 boop. They fall right into place. They're easy to reassemble. And that's where I really saw, okay, like in-house movements, actual things being crafted, actually things being not mass produced, and a watchmaker's making the parts one by one. They throw away anything that doesn't fit perfectly. There is a difference there. And also, mind you, obviously it's still a mechanical watch, but you can beat the hell out of a Rolex. I mean, like if you baby it because you were afraid of the actual movement getting damaged, it's not the case. Like obviously anything that has a high G-force, like just dropping it from, hitting concrete or something like that, that's not what we're talking about. But actually wearing an Explorer, Patel, when you're doing your active things and stuff like that, oh man, a lifetime. And you get the heritage, obviously. You get to pass that watch down. You can do services on it. The price for it is up there. The service calls, of course, are going to be up there. It's not like just replacing the movement altogether on something else. But congratulations, number one. That's really, really awesome. I hope that listen, it's never going to be completely where I don't dive into the bigger brands and I don't dive into learning more about them and everything else. And it's not like I don't know enough. I just explained to you guys the movement end of it and the value that it has to bring other than the brand name. But, of course you're getting, rare materials. There's so much, but yeah, it's a fantastic watch. And you really have to I would say still be careful. You digging Studio Underdog X Moser collab. I heard about it. I probably seen it. It eludes me. I'm gonna get off of here, Patel, and I'm gonna check that out once again. But that one, that one in particularly eludes me. I'm trying to remember what that looked like. And I believe that that's a limited run as well. I'm gonna check that out, man. I'm gonna check that out. I'll go back and take a look. What I am digging, I don't know if you guys know this, about to spill the tea. Watch Crunch Max is actually doing a collab with Notice. You know, they put a teaser photo out there that's coming out. I believe we'll see that at the end of this month. We'll know more. But A, if you're not on Watch Crunch, get on there because you'll get the updates. B, I'm excited to see that because we seen the Jack Mason collab back in, I think that was last year at this point with the GMT. Was it a GMT? I think, yeah, it was a GMT because I did go on the website when it got released with the Jack Mason and Watch Crunch collab, but I just wasn't ready for the GMT, man. I might have to move you guys to the shade again because I'm worried about the phone overheating, and it definitely will. Bear with me. We're gonna relocate into the shade so we don't get cut off here. But that watch was super phenomenal. I had multiple opportunities to grab it. I didn't ultimately get it because honestly, I wasn't ready for the GMT at that point in time, right? I'm not a big traveler. I don't get on the plane a lot. I'm kind of like a hermit crab. I'm kind of like a guy that's cool with staying home a lot. You know, I love to go out to the park. I like to do this, but travel hasn't been my cup of tea. But, you know, eventually it got the best of me and I wanted to see, you know, what the GMT actually offers. Vincent, what's going on, buddy? Good morning. Vincent's in the building. But yeah, you know, that was a phenomenal collab. Watch Crunch is doing, like I said, another collab with Notice. Not another. They're doing a collaboration with Notice. So I'm excited to see exactly all of the things that. Listen, it's going to be a good watch, right? I'm sorry, guys. I talk fast. I get excited to come on here. So it seems like I just play ball, so I have a little bit of adrenaline in me. But it seems like I just had my cup of coffee. But I'm in New York, baby. In New York, if you're not talking fast, you're moving slow. So bear with me. Yeah, so where was I? I'm excited to see the collab. Oh, so obviously Max being a super watch enthusiast, and like anybody else, like when Jody came out with his watch, or even when I think Mad Watch Collector did a collaboration. I don't think it was actually like his watch, but you have a sense of security knowing that these guys are enthusiasts and knowing what we as enthusiasts are looking for in features and value in a watch. I don't know why I keep doing this. In value in a watch. Oh, I know why. Because, you know, you value, I value. It's all subjective at that point. But hold on one second. Let me just readjust this a little down. Beep. But I'm expecting, obviously, and Notice makes good watches, man. Notice is another company that I want to see out there. What's the other name? Vintage and Spot. Baltic. Baltic is cool. Baltic is making moves. We all know Chris Ward opened up their place in Texas. There's a lot of moving parts, man. There's a lot of progression. It's so exciting because also the crowd in New York is going to be bigger. There's more vendors. It's a good time to be a watch enthusiast. That's been said a lot. And that is a big part of the reason why. Just seeing the micro brands elevate and become more of a thing and watching them go in the right direction. Obviously tied into they have a need, a necessity to listen to us and to grow that way. So, you know, it's really exciting because watches can go away. There's always going to be people that love watches, but it's easy to say like, okay, watches are not growing. People are not coming into watches, and it's easy to say, okay, that makes sense. It's technically dead technology. Apple Watch. There's a lot that goes against it, but that's not what I'm seeing. That's not my optics, and I don't think I'm wrong. I think that we're seeing the pie get bigger. We're seeing obviously with that more cash flow into the companies, so therefore they're being more innovative and they're giving us more, even with pre-launches and new independent brands coming out. And going back to like what I said, like the Erebus watch is something that I expect the bracelet to be phenomenal. I expect the loom to be bright. I expect the movement to be regulated, whether or not it's like a super affordable movement or not. I think that that's going to definitely be, you know, something to expect out of it, right? There's just a level of expectation when an enthusiast gets into the watch game, and we know for a fact that that's going to be what's going on, what's going on. We know that that's going to be, you know, the level of expectations and where it's going to go, right? Like as we see these shows grow, as we see people coming into it, you also seeing younger generation, right? And the biggest topic that we often hear about is the Apple Watch, but I've seen so many new people coming into the Watch Crunch community posting about their journey of how the Apple Watch led to a watch, right? So that's a thing. And that's actually something that happened to me as an example. That's something that I've actually, and I was surprised. I was like, okay, I didn't know that that was also happening so many times over with other people. So not mad at the Apple Watch because the Apple Watch is just not going to give you the same feel that you're going to feel from an actual mechanical or quartz watch. And you only know what I'm saying if you had that feeling and you had that connection and you had that enthusiasm about it. So it's kind of like a gateway watch at that point. No, I think so. So I'm all for Apple Watch. You want to get an Apple Watch, no problem. You're probably, if you don't already collect watch, so what I've not heard is this, and this is what I'm talking about. Like I've not heard somebody say, "Hey, I was into watch collecting, and then I got an Apple Watch, and now I don't need my other watches because my Apple Watch does all that plus more." I at least haven't heard the other way around. Have you guys? So I think that there's nothing wrong with an Apple Watch. It has its day. I still have mine. I don't use it as much. It's just annoying to charge it. I use the double wrist. I kind of cooled it with the double wristing too. For nothing more than I just don't feel like it at this point. You know, I'm gonna do it again. I pick and choose when I feel like putting on two watches, but lately I haven't been doing that, and it's just like a type of feel. I have no problem doing that. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today, man. I wanted to touch up on the Philly Watch Show. I wanted to touch up on a couple of things. There's a lot of things to be excited for. I just wanted to say hello, say good morning, see what you guys are talking about, and that's pretty much it. So, as always, please don't forget this all started with a watch. No matter where your watch collection journey takes you, no matter how you decide to collect, you guys are all welcome on this channel and in this community, as you should be. I appreciate you guys for checking in on this live, and I'll see you guys in the next.